You're watching Taste the Victory. Hey guys, today we got an insane deck profile for you. Back-to-back Ultimate Cup wins. Lago joins us winning the core event on Saturday and the Carta Mágica Ultimate Cup on Sunday. Truly one of the most skilled duelists I've seen out here. Lago, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, give us an idea of your deck matchups, and let us know how this weekend went?
What introduction that was right there. Thank you for that. I mean, honestly, this weekend was honestly surreal. Never did I imagine I'd, top at least, let alone top, will win both these events. It's absolutely wild. Just a lot of hard work to pull that off. So for the babies, the eggs, it's just 4 Chimeras and 1 Upamon. Really, the Upamon's only there should you go up against yellow. I should probably just preface this whole thing by saying that both days I didn't play a single yellow.
That's insane.
That is kind of wild. However, I don't think the matchup is kind of like, I know a lot of people believe that yellow is kind of favored. However, this kind of a Zulong build with 4 Sayakas and 4 Madokis, I don't think it does too bad into that matchup. Usually these are the babies you want, right? If you have an Upa raised, especially against the blue mirror, it feels really bad. But let's put it this way: we got 4 Madokis and 4 Sayakas. This is pretty much why. Well, this is one of the many reasons, but I would say I would put this as kind of a major reason why blue is probably the strongest deck currently in this format. It's because we have access to both the reduction negators as well as the memory negators. And I could probably get into that now. Well, I'll get into it more later when I talk about the blue mirror matchup. But I think the number one thing that worked out for me a lot, and that more players should do, especially in the blue mirror, is say you're raising, right? You got an egg, you raise, and 4 Strabimons as well. I'll put that out there. In your hand, you have a Strabimon and a Madoki, and you're thinking, all right, Strabimon has an on-play effect that could get value off that. So I'll just immediately, without thinking, raise into a Madoki in raising, right? Get a draw. However, I think probably the thing that most blue players don't do, especially in the mirror, is hard play both Madoki, like not both of them, but like in certain situations, it's very situational, depending on like you see what your opponent could potentially do or what they can or cannot do. Hard playing a Madoki and or a Sayaka in pivotal moments is absolutely huge, right? 'Cause it's, for instance, let me see if I can give an example here. Actually, if you in the finals, I believe, of Carta, there was a situation, right? They had a Sora Joe out, I believe, only 1 Tamer. I already had a Beowulf that was sourceless, so they were gonna get the proc for the Sora Joe regardless. But I think in that instance, I was at 2, and then I just hard played a Sayaka, as opposed to anything else. And what that does is that prevents them from going into a Beowulf and getting value off that Tamer. Legit, like, I'll say if you have a Sayaka and Madoki on board, and you leave a blue mirror at 3, they realistically can't do much unless they have like an Aqua Viper, Spree Cannon, Howlings in the back here and there. With 3 memory and these 2 on board, it's very difficult to do anything to kind of out either a wide board or just anything of value, if that makes any sense.
Right, absolutely.
And then 2 Bokos, just really good searcher card. And obviously the effect to gain 2 memory is huge. However, I don't run this at 3 or 4. I know I've seen a lot of builds that do. Because this isn't ideal in the mirror.
Right.
Madoki just, negates it as well. It's if this gets frozen, there's nothing you could do about it, unless you're running Aqua Viper, of course, which my build isn't. Nothing you could do to stop a Sora Joe memory, Matt memory, anything like that. So it's definitely come clutch. Like, I think 2 is the perfect amount, personally. But it's definitely not the best card in the mirror. Then, I mean, for the standard, obviously everyone should have 4 Korikakus, as well as 4 Kumamons. I don't really think I need to touch on these. I do have 1 Kendo. This card came up a lot for me, I would say. A boost here in the back, or even a couple of boosts or setting up. However, I was left at 3, and they had a Sayaka and Madoki on board. A well-timed Kendo, to Kendo the Madoki away, maybe pop a boost and potentially get more value off of, if I have another Tamer on board, like a Beowulf to bounce the Sayakas. Well, wouldn't be able to Beowulf in that situation, but you know, I'd be able to work some plays out there, and Kendo just allows for that level of versatility. And another huge thing is Kendo is essentially he's like a walking Beowulf, right? Like, let's say you go into a Kendo, you swing, and he survives, right? If he's not dealt with by the opposing, and I'm mainly speaking towards kind of the blue mirror, because, but as well as like any other matchup as well. But if he's not dealt with, if he's not stunned, if he's not swung over, and he's able to stand up again, I think this happened in 1 or 2 games where my Kendo was able to get 2 swings and get value off bouncing rookies twice. Like that's massive. Actually, I wouldn't bump it up. I think 1 is a perfect amount.
Okay.
I don't think anything needs to be said about this guy. We have 1 Azulong, just an alternative win con. Ideally, he's there really for to combat purple as well as yellow. Ideally yellow, because, you know, especially yellows that are running Dynasty, like 2 Dynasts, 3 Dynasts at that. You know, he's a win con. He's something you have to be worried about, and he actually did come up huge for me in the semifinal of core against the blue player. So that was. Although I will say with the Zulong, he's not necessarily. He usually doesn't come up in the blue mirror match, because if Madokis are, there's a lot of them. There's 4 of them in the deck. Usually the opponent will see them. 4 Davis. Well, actually that's important. We'll actually get to that. We'll do 4 Tommies here, which is just, I think, necessary. 4 Sora Joes. I think you have to be running 4 no matter what, just because of the value that you can get with it, either as a security check or just hard playing it early, especially, and 1 mat. I think most people have 4 Tommies, so that's fine. I think most people have started adopting 1 mat as well, just because it's actually not that. Having a 2 cost, and I'll actually throw down a Mimi here as well, which is kind of a little bit of a spicy tech, but not too much. Blue at 3 it's kind of like a combo ideally, right? Say you're at 3, it's not that easy to leave an opponent at 3 if I'm at 3. Like, there's no, like, a lot of blues. Well, you can play a Tommy, you can play some rookies here and there. But, like, if you want to play a Sora Joe, you're usually going to give the opponent 4, right? You play a Strabi, a Boca, or whatever. You do 3. You do a hybrid into a Beowulf, that's 3 memory. And then you play a Sora Joe. Ideally, like, it's not optimal. However, by playing Matt and Mimi, it just makes it allows for more versatility, right? You could choke when you need to if you need to. If you're at 3, you could play a Matt and then maybe a Sora Joe right there. That's a valuable 6 memory. That you just optimized, right? You didn't lose any memory to their memory tamer, if that makes any sense. It's just it allows for a lot more versatility. Mimi is there for the blue matchup, and it's also just there because it's a great card in a deck that's filled with a lot of option cards. Hammer Spark becomes 2. Mimi didn't come up that often for me. However, I will say that Mimi has a lot of, she probably does a lot of work that you don't see, right? I probably can't count the amount of times that, like, I'm not sure, my opponents probably had Hammer Sparks in hand that they just couldn't use because Mimi was there. So she does a lot of unseen work, and so she could be kind of like an unsung hero here and there. For sure. So she's definitely important. She acts as kind of a second Madoki in times. And she also kind of, but just by Hammer Sparking and tapping Mimi, you gain a memory. I think Tyler from Gaia Force, like, I remember he pulled that off on me on in DigiFest, and that's where I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty neat. Like, yeah. Yeah,
that's a lot of cool interactions off that card. Do you think more than 1 is too cloggy, or?
I do think so. I think 1 is perfectly fine. And if you're not comfortable playing this Mimi, right. If you don't think,
yeah, you gotta get used to that in your list.
Precisely. I would say this would be the card to take out for maybe like a Forbidden Trident, an Aqua Viper, whatever suits your playstyle, sort of. Maybe even a Supreme Cannon now, since I like her though a lot. I'm probably going to keep her in my deck. And here's a big thing. I see probably every single blue list, or the majority of blue lists, running 3 Davis. Yeah. I think 4 is necessary. 1, because consistency, of course. 9 rounds. It kind of acts as a pseudo rookie. especially since we could mulligan, right? You see a Davis in your hand,
Mhm.
you think, oh, maybe I could, Davis into a rookie. And even if you can't, you should have another hybrid in hand where you just keep drawing and potentially, cycle through your deck and get some outs. So that's one major factor. And another big thing is, especially in all matchups, really, right? Say, for instance, I start off a turn playing a rookie. Let's just do a Madoki here. And then I play a Davis, right?
Yeah.
Um, the worst feeling is when you have to, and they set up a board. They set up like a rookie and back their own Davis and like a Strabimon or something of value there.
Mhm.
The worst feeling is when you have to hybrid and Beowulf on top of a Davis, right? Because you lose your memory setter. But that feels a lot less worse. Say if you have another Davis in hand, right? You could do that, get value with the Beowulf. He'll probably maintain on board. And then you slap down another Davis, and you're in the same situation, except you just got value off of Beowulf. 4 Hammer Sparks, goes without saying, probably one of the best option cards, created.
Yeah.
Then we have 1 Ice Wall. Let's not even talk about that. Came up a lot. A well-utilized Ice Wall could be huge. And then finally 3 Howlings. The boosts, the extra 2 memory can be huge, especially when you're getting choked. Trashing Sources is huge against, certain matchups that you want. You don't, like, for instance, I played a lot of X antibodies.
Right.
Well-timed Tommy and then a Howling just to stun a Dorogoromon so he can't keep proccing the effect of when attacking to delete is huge. Gaining 2 memory is also massive. It procs Kyra. It's very versatile, this card. It stuns any blue cards that you want to potentially, trigger off Sora Joe next turn. Very, very, very big card. I think 3, once again, I think 3 is mandatory personally, but it depends on the playstyle, really, but I would go with 3. And that's the entire deck. I could now, like, what matchup specifically are you curious about?
But how was like black, yellow, and then a lot of people were actually bringing in Secret Spice to this event, red hybrids. A lot of people were thinking like that's a good answer to blue. Did you ever end up facing that, and how did that feel?
Yeah, I think I played 2 red hybrid decks, or 2 or 3 red hybrid decks, and I actually played a red ancient OTK for Chungman actually. So that was interesting. I don't think red hybrid. Well, I think the card that red hybrid, the ideal card that you want if you're playing red hybrid against blue, is you got to be wary of Burning Greymon, right? That card is the card that could really, right, pop a board a lot.
Yeah.
But against red hybrid, really, as soon as they come out of raising, you should be able to strip their sources pretty easily. Just you got to be cognizant. Sorry, you got to just be aware of. Can they Burning Greymon for a lot of value here? Can they? Some of them probably run Atomic Blasters. It's not the end of the world if you get Atomic Blaster and you lose rookies. Just keep setting up any potential. I will say, against Red Hybrid, Sayaka is probably a really great card. You definitely don't ever want to swing with Sayaka, right? Because it prevents the Aldemon. And just them accelerating to a level 6, which they should be running either Emperor Gray or any other top end, maybe Ancient Gray. So Sayaka's huge. Madoki can be big, but it's not as huge as because they're either running Boko or maybe a boost here and there, but it's not too much. So essentially, I would stick with the game plan if you're playing blue. Maybe you could start chipping with Madoki or chipping with Madoki or Strabi or chipping with Beowulf for value. Source strip them, make sure you stun them, get value with Source. I believe it's very hard for Red Hybrid to come on top of blue. Although obviously, if played optimally, I'm not saying it's definitely possible, no question.
For sure, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So then, similarly, how does the yellow hybrids, yellow-purple hybrids match up? Like a lot of people claim it's one of the harder matches for this deck. How does that feel to play against, especially with this build that's really more catered towards the blue matchup?
Yeah, that I agree with 100%. That is probably one of the harder matchups. Although, a Zulong is a big card into that. So if you don't see an Zulong, it can be tough. However, it's not impossible. So with yellow, essentially, what I would do, how I approach that matchup is you also have to take calculated risks, right? Calculated swings.
Right.
So some early chip damage is not necessarily the worst thing. The main thing is, I will say this, right? There's a difference in how you play based on like what tamers are out, right? TK and Kari, especially if they have just a purple Kari as well. Then you should really consider like, well, actually you should really consider when if they have one out, if they have a TK and Kari out, if they have two TK and Karis out, you probably should never go under. You should just always try matching their security, and then setting up a turn to OTK them. That's the way. Even if they have if they have Kari or TK and Karis out, that's how you should approach that matchup. You set up a potential lethal next turn, and you will make them deal with that. So that could be playing Strabbies, so you get value with the on plays, playing Bokos, playing Tamers in the back, and they have to deal with that, right? Whether that's a Schwartz, whether that's whatever, and that's fine. If they Schwartz like 3-4 Digimon, that's fine. Just keep trying to do it again. Although I do think the majority of times you should never swing Beowulf to crash Jet Sylph. Take all the sources away, and try getting value with Sora and Joe's. And then just keep stunning her. If they go into a Dynus or Serathi or whatever, just keep trying to stun as well. And then you just have to set up a potential OTK board.
Definitely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure. So, you did win the two events this weekend back to back. How did that go? Was there any tips you give to people for like energy, keeping like mental and stuff like that? How did you enjoy the weekend?
Oh God. Well, I definitely enjoyed it because I won both, but my God, playing, I believe it was 17 rounds. That was a mental toll. I played a lot of blue mirrors, with a lot of thinking, so it was definitely stressful, and there's a lot of pressure involved. But I will say that Saturday I went in more stressed, more worried, and Sunday I went in more carefree. Cool. It definitely felt a lot better Sunday just because of how relaxed I was. And I will say, like, being nervous is definitely, it happens to all of us as well. Like I was nervous a lot. And I'm not really sure the best way to combat that. But like, and what I do actually, I was telling my friend, and usually if my opponent has a problem, I usually just talk through my plays like out loud. With myself, and that just allows me to think more. It allows me to organize my thoughts more. A lot of times that what happens, right? When I didn't used to just talk out my plays like out loud, like I would think about the play I'm gonna do.
Cool. Yeah, that's some very cool tips. Everyone, to handle it differently and stuff. It's a nice idea. Cool. So thanks for coming on and doing this in-depth profile logo. That was really insightful, and like I'm learning a lot even just listening. Is there anything you want to plug? Any shout outs you want to give to help you with the event or anything like that?
Just shout out to I will shout out Jackson Huang. He was the primary person that I kind of play tested with, especially in the Blue Mirror. He beat me in DigiFest, and he's the one who really made me kind of realize the power of just hard playing Sayakas and Madokis.
Well, thanks for coming on. Congratulations again on your awesome accomplishment. I hope you get the 3-peat this weekend. And
No, it was an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on.
Well, I'll see you guys next time, and I hope you enjoy the video. Thanks.